So how to write for naval history? I think a lot of you here already do write for the magazine, and we're glad to have you. And we're always looking for new talent to have in the magazine as well. Um, the main thing I would say, starting off, are a couple of things. First off, the more familiar you are with the magazine, the better your shot with us, because it's easy enough to detect from a submission. Someone had some vaguely naval idea and thought they looked up in Writer's Market and they said, "Oh, naval history, I'll send it to them." You can tell they don't realize we've had 17 articles on that topic in the last 25 years. It looks like they've never read the magazine. It's like they're trying to reinvent the wheel. The more familiar you are with the magazine, the more you're going to have a sense of what we're looking for, the scope and scale of what we're going to run, and that kind of thing. We occupy an interesting space between the purely scholarly academic publication and popular history for a general readership. We aspire to be the latter, but we adhere to the rigors of the former, or at least that is our ideal. So keep that in mind as well. A couple of basic nuts and bolts things to write for the magazine. Look for a word count of between 2,500 and 3,500 words. That's the sweet spot. If it's a little over, we can work with that. If it's a little under, that's fine too. Second, the missing ingredient so often with a great story idea, a great article pitch, a fine article, is art. Be thinking about art from the get-go. If you have access to good images or you can steer us toward them with links, that's a huge part of the battle on this end. And in magazine publishing, the illustrations are key. The article is the main thing, but you need to have the illustrations as well to really bring it alive. And we pride ourselves on having a nice, lively look in the magazine. Luckily, our subject matter is extremely photogenic and has been the subject of great artworks as long as there's been naval history. So it's often very rich with art. I would refer you to Sam Tangretti's piece in the current issue. This is actually a little bit ahead of time. It's probably not on the newsstands yet. Sam has a piece in here on the Knights Templar and their naval operations. Yeah, who knew, right? Fascinating piece, and it's got all sorts of really colorful medieval art in it. So that's a good example of how art can really help the story pop. Mentioning that, I should segue into something else. Traditionally, the magazine has always been focused and remains focused on American naval history, U.S. Navy history. But that's never been the sole perimeter of what we do. In fact, for years, our followers in the UK, it was really hard for them to get our magazine because it was prohibitively expensive to get a print subscription shipped overseas. Now there are digital-only subscriptions. So we're expanding our readership farther afield and our subject matter too. The way I see it is there are many rooms in the mansion, and an article about the Knights Templar, or I have one coming up that was recently accepted on the Roman invasion of Britain in 43 AD. Yeah. These seem like they're just sort of like exotic topics, but there's a lot of logistical lessons in that Roman invasion of Britain. And aside from the fact that it's just plain interesting, there are always lessons to be gleaned from all these different chapters in naval history beyond just the American naval history, though that remains our bread and butter. We like to think we're broadening our footprint as far as that kind of thing goes. So you can think outside the box of that. And in fact, some of the real sort of evergreen topics of U.S. naval history, we've probably got pretty well covered. We've covered them, or we have people that write about them. So something different than that is not bad at all. If you can pull something together that's viable and interesting and all those good things. Another thing that you might want to think about to write for the magazine is we are on a different calendrical mindset than the man in the street. We have to be thinking like a chess player thinks 6 moves ahead. We're thinking at least 6 months ahead. Anniversarial articles are really, really a desirable thing. If it's a key anniversary year of a key naval event in American history, especially, we want to have some coverage, give some due acknowledgement and memorializing of that. So those are always good. But if you come up with it a month before that anniversary, we've already missed the boat. This ship's done sailed, no pun intended. If there's some big anniversary next year, you should be thinking about that this year. And it's not too early to pitch it to us. The sad fact is we only publish 6 times a year. So we're thinking way ahead, and we try to map things out for like the whole year ahead. Of course, there's always loose ends you fill in here and there, but we're thinking long term. So you can think long term, like if there's an anniversary coming up, not next month, but next year, that's the time to start thinking about that. And we love those. Those are great. They're not, you can't just completely be calendrical anniversaries all the time, but they're often the main feature around which will frame the theme of an issue. I'm trying to think what else I could say to you. I should probably leave some time for some Q&A. So I'll try to wrap things up here. It is right now. Oh, we're good. We have 9 more minutes.
One question.
I'm trying to think if there's any other key things I would look to.
Okay.
Again, I think it's better that the more familiar you are, the better you're going to have a chance at coming up with something that sounds really good to us. Maybe we haven't done it to death. We haven't done it yet at all. Those are all music to our ears. I would also add this. There is Naval History, the magazine, the print edition, but there is also the digital version of Naval History online, Naval History Magazine online. And we publish a whole lot of online exclusive content now in Naval History. And this is a great boon, I think, for the author, especially for the author getting his foot in the door. Whereas certain pieces of work are valuable contributions to the literature, they just might not be the right fit for the print magazine. They might be too long. They might be too erudite, albeit still worthwhile. They might be too personal, memoirish, and anecdotal. Well, Naval History Online is an expandable universe. We have room on there for, here's what I was doing on the deck of that ship in World War II, little anecdotes like that. There's room for the scholarly work that's probably way too long to publish in the magazine, and is very interesting, but is laden with more endnotes and just has a greater length because of the virtue of the nature of what it is. I have a 2-parter that I've been editing for online that's a really good scholarly academic piece, and it's interesting, but it wouldn't have worked in the magazine, but online it's great. And for the scholar who wrote it, he's an archivist here, actually at the Academy. This is a really good opportunity for him. He's a young scholar trying to get his name out there, and this is a good opportunity to do that. You're still published in Naval History, even when you publish on Naval History Online. And that pays as well, not as much, but it does pay. So those are the main nuts and bolts. I have a few minutes left here, so I can't see hands. I can only see my face and a bunch of black. So if does anybody have any questions they want to float to me? Because we have 7 more minutes here.
Yeah, Eric, would you explain how best for everyone to pitch an idea? Do you get email, or and how long, and how should they pitch it?
That's a great question. The address to send a submission, an over the transom submission, is, I believe it's submissions@navalhistory@usni.org. You can also email me directly, since you're at this thing and you bothered to listen to me here today. I'm at emails@usni.org. I get pitches from authors I know and don't know all the time, and you're more than welcome to approach me. I'm always interested to hear what your idea is. Whether it's a good one or not, I definitely want to hear it. It never hurts to ask. So the best bet is to email. Snail mail or phone, those aren't good at all. Email is golden.
Eric, I have a companion article of proceedings on pressure. I see you already got yours out. I try to coordinate with you and then get a response. Now I understand why. I gotta do it 6 months in advance.
Who was that? Who just said that?
Jim Bryant.
Oh, Jim. Yes, I was on the throes of deadline hell when that email came in. I'm still catching up on those. Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing your article. I'm glad Proceedings and we're kind of doing a double teamer on that one, because it's history, but it's recent enough that it's still unsolved enough that Proceedings is interested in it too. So I think it's really cool that with something like the Thresher, it kind of straddles both magazines. And I can't wait to read your article. And yeah, think of me next time. Just think further in advance. I would also add, and this is a good place to do that because I just got called out on that. We do get literally hundreds of emails constantly all the time. And if we don't get back to you, we're not blowing you off. We're just not caught up on getting back on our emails yet. So a little charity toward us on that, but we always try to get back to everyone. Are there any other questions or about what we're interested in, or how to get around to going about it.
Eric, there was, I think the Naval Institute Proceedings at one time had a page that says how to write for proceedings and had many of the types of subjects that you talked about. Is there something similar that you might have for naval history, just to incorporate some of the, many of the things that you had down there that could be published maybe in an issue of the magazine, and we would have sort of a checklist to go by?
Yeah. I think they used to have that too. And it's in the real small, it used to be in the back of the mag, really small type. Sort of submission guidelines. The problem with the print edition is the real estate is so finite. Every page is like, there's so much. You wish you had 92 pages when you have 64. And so there's always been we try to always condense that kind of thing. Now, that's a good suggestion. I'll run that by the folks here about putting a little boxed thing in there in every issue again, maybe making it a little more prominent. But we can certainly have something that lives online when you go to the landing page of the magazine. And that's a very good idea. The nuts and bolts, again, of course, are the word count. Send it well in advance of something if it ties into an anniversary. You know what kind of things we cover. Once in a blue moon, we'll go into more of a maritime history than a strictly naval history. But that's the exception rather than the rule. But it doesn't mean we would rule it out automatically. But yes, thank you. That's a good idea to maybe revive that.